It's only 30 years of Alliance supporting the leagues, and we're not done yet. Only the leagues, only the Alliance leagues.
Hello and welcome to the Throw-In in association with Alliance, with me, Sinéad Kissane. Well, the Alliance Leagues came to an end over the weekend, with Kerry easily beating Mayo, and in Division 2, Roscommon overcame Galway. In the hurling, Waterford won their fourth league title with a 6-point win over Cork. We'll speak to John Mullane about that in a bit, but first let's focus on the football, and I'm joined by Donnchadh, Boyle and Dick Clerkin. So it finished Kerry 319, Mayo 13 points in the Division 1 final at Croke Park yesterday. For the third time, Jack O'Connor has won the league in his first year in charge. Now, as a Kerry person, I'm certainly not going to tempt fate and add what followed those league wins. But Dick, there's only one place to start. David Clifford won 6, and that goal was sensational.
Yeah, and listen, it's not for the first time. Like, it's not that he does anything we haven't seen before, but when he does so much of it in one day in Croke Park against, to be fair to them, even though they didn't have a good day, Mayo, it's still a top tier team, second and waiting really to Kerry. It makes it all the more impressive. Like, whatever we're doing these things, maybe in a Munster quarter final or a sort of meaningless league game, to do it on the biggest days, hugely impressive. And I suppose what impresses me so much about him, it's not just like there's been loads of really good finishers and point scorers and goal takers over the years, but when you look at his complete game, like I'd love to watch the game back. I just didn't get a chance yesterday to see how many scores was he actually either the direct assist for or the sort of secondary assist. Like, he never wastes the ball. I know they say that about a lot of players. Oh, he never wastes the ball. But he literally never wastes the ball. He is so creative, not just with himself. And to me, that almost sets him apart. Like, he just does so much damage to a team. Again, not just from his own boot, from with his own hands and vision. And like, as I say, you could probably associate at least, a goal and 15 to him directly yesterday. Like, it's just a phenomenal return for one player in an attacking unit that, I've never seen myself. But I think maybe Peter Cavan and a few players like that, possibly. But like, it's just, we're just privileged to be watching it at the minute.
Yeah, it is that part as well, Donnchadh. He's so unselfish as well.
Yeah, he has everything. Like what struck me about what he did yesterday was it was so routine nearly. Like, you're just you're keeping track of the scores, and you look down and he had won 6 in a national final and had sort of done it at his ease. Like, he'd pieced it together with very little fuss, and he's just on a level all of his own at the minute. I think we look at him now and he puts 1-6 up in Croke Park, and we're not that surprised, as brilliant as he was yesterday. I think that's probably the biggest compliment you can pay him. But we're talking about in these terms, yeah, David Clifford got 1-6 in the league final. That sounds about right, and that's where we are. And, the strange thing about it, and I think Dick wrote about it this morning too, Pádraig O'Hara, had a tough day at the office, but he wasn't, because of the way Clifford is playing, you couldn't really, it's hard to be too critical of him.
Yeah.
And that's a strange thing to say. But there was a couple of times he got close contact with him and he ripped the ball off him. He kept at him. And then obviously we all saw the little pat in the hip, which was, an acknowledgement of what he'd just seen. When Clifford got the ball for that goal, he was facing Hogan's stand. He was somewhere between the 45 and the 50, and he Pádraig O'Hara on him. And about 4 seconds later, he's strong enough to ride the tackle, solos on the left foot, takes it in on the right, top of the roof of the net. Just extraordinary stuff. And
what's unique, not unique, well, it's actually almost becoming unique. If you think about, and even, could you imagine that goal yesterday if David Clifford had won it clean, and instead of doing what he done, he stopped and put his hand up and took a bloody mark. The mark is for another, but what the mark has done, we see so few times now that instinctive forward, getting a ball, dropping the shoulder, taking his man on and doing what you just don't see that anymore. Players, even whatever but the mark, they're just so, their instinct now is to really sort of stop, work the arc, instead of actually doing what David Clifford done yesterday. So when you see it happening, you're just like, my God, we just do not see that enough in Gaelic football,
And he had the awareness to know what, despite the fact he was facing he knew that Mayo had pushed up and he knew that he had O'Hara on his own. and he had the awareness to spot that and go for it and execute it. But you touched on earlier, Dick, then too, like even one of Paul Ganey's pointing at a close range left-footed one, it was just a big high ball into him that it came in at an angle. He kind of got amongst it, broke it down, won it, fed it back out to Ganey. And so like he's carrying the ball in along the end line and sticking in the roof of the net. He's breaking down balls, he's kicking frees, like he does everything, you know.
Yeah. If he was a selfish player, he could have had easily 110, 112 yesterday. Like he threw off a few balls yesterday that another player, another forward might have just said, no, this is my job, I'm sticking this over. But he doesn't. He always gives it to, you know, the player in the right position, which again sets him out from an awful lot of good forwards out there who are sort of selfish by nature, because that responsibility always falls on him. You know?
Yeah.
And the other thing about him too, sorry, Sinead, is like, I know it doesn't mean much, but his points are some of the most beautiful points you'll ever see. The shape of the shot and the arc and the way the ball moves, and even the one after himself and O'Hora had the had the little over and back, and then the next time he got it, you knew what he was going for, and he shot from the wrong side for a left-footed kicker. And left absolutely no doubt. It split the posts. It kind of came around and back in. And I know it doesn't get you any extra points, but geez, it looks great. No,
and there's so few players, probably only Diarmuid Condy, and I'd put our own Conor McManus up there in terms of ball striking and the range that they have. You know, it's and
even the license to shoot as well, Dick. Like, you know, Conor McManus, like that point against Tyrone that we all talk about. Like, no one's allowed to shoot from there, not in the modern game. It's the way it's but Clifford is, McMahon it is, and maybe a handful of others, and that's it. But yeah, it's just extraordinary.
And it was a tough job that O'Hora had to do yesterday. And we know the calibre of player that O'Hora is. And, you know, he had a fantastic game in the All-Ireland semi-final in their win over Dublin last year. But what did you make of the carry-on and the talk between O'Hora? Now, I was sitting down in the lower Hogan, so I didn't see if it was happening in the first half down at the Hill end. But I've never seen that kind of talk go on between two players. Now, we don't know exactly what was said. But, you know, should O'Hora be engaging in that kind of stuff with a player like Clifford?
You should come up our way more often. It's fairly standard now for Ulster Fair. Listen, you don't know the context. You don't know what was said. Sometimes the camera picks this, so it didn't look great. Let's be honest. I was watching on the TV, and I suppose because of the stature of Clifford, it looked almost like O'Hora was trying to bully him. Now, I think everyone was sort of quite happy in watching what proceeded in the following 20 minutes. So listen, I wouldn't be too unfair. That's the type of player that he is. He's in your face. He's tough. But I think at the end of the game, you could see O'Hora, you know, he went up, shook his hand. He knew he was beaten by a better man. He gave it his best, and he did. And like I'd say there was I can recall at least 4 times that O'Hora, you know, stripped the ball at Clifford and tried to push forward. So, you know, it was really good contest, and you don't see too many of those nowadays. You know, how often is a sort of a defender protected by wing backs? You know, he was left there to do a job, and in fairness to James Horn as well, he didn't whip him off. He didn't change him. He said, "Listen, I've nobody better, probably to do the job here." And he says, if he can't do it with all his physicality and aggression, I just don't have anybody else today. So he let him at it and see the 70 minutes out, which I thought was quite, you know, sort of not remarkable, but it was sort of a nod to the sort of probably the stature that O'Hora has in the Mayo camp. We're not going to embarrass him further by taking him off and having the ignominy of that. So he let him see the day out, because the result was irrelevant anyway at that stage.
Yeah, Donnchadh, what about the Kerry defence? Again, no goal conceded yesterday. Jason Foley, Ty Morley is having a brilliant season so far. And obviously the defence has been such a weakness in the past for Kerry. But what exactly is Paddy Tally doing?
Well, somebody asked Jack about Paddy Tally yesterday, and it was one of the lads from the Irish News, and Jack says, well, you're from his neck of the woods anyway. But Jackie was just paid him confidence. Look, he's doing some really good stuff. Look, I think we said it here before, like obviously, though you mentioned two of them, Ty Morley and Jason Foley, they're both brilliant. They're probably benefiting from a sustained run in the team, a little bit of natural improvement that comes with time and experience, and maybe even physical conditioning that, you know, that is just built up over years and years. But they have been absolutely excellent. I think it was Monaghan got a goal from a penalty. Tyrone got a goal in that dead rubber. And you'd have to say yesterday didn't really look like a goal chance. There was 1.5 chance that when a point attempt came back off the post, but you could never say that Kerry were cut open. So whatever combination it is between Jack, Paddy Tally, the work that was done previously, the sort of the natural improvement that I mentioned, it's all coming along very nicely. and things are getting better for Kerry too. Like I think Stefan Okunbor should get the okay this week. Now where he fits
on the pitch at the end, actually, yeah. He came on for the celebrations, yeah.
He's in Santry today actually to just for one final checkup, and Jack sort of hinted that him and a few others will be sent back to play county league games in Kerry now because they're 5-6 weeks out from the Cork match, wherever that's going to be played. But they're just in really good shape at the minute. And Colin Keys was writing about the Jack Slam this morning that you mentioned, that when he wins the league, that he generally goes on and wins the All Ireland. Now Jack was saying yesterday he has no he's not into pishogues, but if you are, you'd be very happy with what you've seen from a Kerry point of view.
What about the mitigating factors there for Dick? They were without some key players, Rob Henley, Paddy Durcan. Mullane was he withdrawn before game? No Diarmuid O'Connor. Cillian O'Connor was back yesterday. They've their championship opener as well in just a few weeks' time against Galway, but losing by that margin. How did it go so wrong for them yesterday?
I thought, even though it was clear that there was definitely a gulf from the two teams, I thought they competed fairly well for most of the first half. The goal that Gavin White got through just put a wee bit of distance between the sides, but you could definitely see they definitely missed that. Mayo have a very strong running game. That sort of intensity, the likes of Durcan and Mullane, and they all sort of bring in the overlaps. They were just missing a wee bit of that would have sort of probably bridged the gap a wee bit more. They were still never going to beat Kerry on yesterday. I think Kerry just are playing so well. They're so fit and so sharp. But I think, to be fair to Mayo, I think they will be better. Now, we're assuming those players, in terms of their injuries, will become available. You can never make that assumption. But they definitely missed those core players at the back to drive forward. So hopefully they'll come back in and strengthen, because I think that wasn't a fair reflection of Mayo. Like, I seen Mayo they played in Monaghan, and I was very impressed with them, and in terms of how they played and how they set out. So I think we'll see more of Mayo. I think that physically, like, they're well up there, even though yesterday, especially in the second half, you couldn't have said that. But I think the likes of James Carr showed up a few glimpses in the first half. That there's something there. Young Plunkett as well. So the panel has looked stronger, assuming that those injured players can come back in. Diarmuid O'Connor, it was great to see him come in, and it was great to see him. He got a ball at the end. He won a free and nailed it himself, which is good, because before that he looked like a guy that needs a lot of football. For a guy, I think he doesn't have an awful lot of time. Sorry, Cillian O'Connor. He doesn't have an awful lot of time to get up to the pace of the game now, and it would have been a frightening sort of insight into what the standard is now. That Kerry's the standard for him to get up. The pace of those backs. Like, how close can he get to that level in the short window he has is a big question now. Because I honestly, if I was Mayo, I think you have to be measured in terms of how much you're going to get from him this year, because of the pace of what the game is and where he's coming from. That's going to be a big challenge. But that being said, it was a huge milestone for him personally and Mayo, so it was great to see him back out there yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think it was damaging, no doubt about it, but don't think much changes for Mayo.
No, not really. No.
It's like nothing
learned, nothing lost.
And the other thing is, if you put O'Hara in that defence, and he has Mullane and he has Paddy Durcan and maybe Brendan Harrison around him too, I think they're a much stronger unit altogether, and then maybe the Clifford things comes a little bit more manageable, and even then maybe they have a choice to change it up a little bit and move things around. But what was worrying for Mayo was, like, that could have been done at half time, that game. Like, Paddy Clifford had 2 really good goal chances, and there were 2 good saves, but in fairness, probably should have done more with both of them. He had the chance to put them away. So there is a few little things for Mayo to work on. All right, but look, no doubt that they are 100% focused on Galway. And looking at that, because look, they've beaten Kerry in Croke Park recently. Jack said it afterwards again, going back to it, like, their record in Croke Park has been brutal this last while. It's 1 in the last 10, across league and championship. They've lost to Tyrone, Dublin, Galway, possibly Mayo as well in that time. So they needed. There was probably their need was probably greater, I would say, in that sense. And but look, if Mayo beat Galway in Connacht, that game will be close to forgotten. And if the two sides meet again, I think you see a very different thing, because Mayo they live in their intensity, their aggression, their running power, and that wasn't really there yesterday. You'd have to say.
You didn't see too many examples of that manic intensity around the middle and breaking. And I suppose it goes back to the Aidan O'Shea question. I didn't think, I was surprised to see him start.
What way was he used yesterday, Dick, do you think?
It goes back to that sort of, he sort of, I don't want to be unfair, but it was almost like he was carried around the middle third. Like he plays an 11, but like he's not a number 11. He doesn't score. He doesn't really create in a typical number 11 role. So he sort of drops deep, would pick up a few balls or break up a bit of play. Gives you the impression, I feel, that he's having a bigger influence on the game than he actually is. And I think there's a big question mark that having one player that's not really hugely mobile and doing what they should be doing and role in that middle third can have a massive impact, on the wider team. And I think there's if nothing else, James Horan will have to reflect on, right, for July, planning his team for July, where does this guy play, or does he play, and does he come on? Because I think they played better in the league in the early stages when he sort of came on as an impact role and had a much more defined structure with the 15 players lined out. Whereas yesterday, I think they went back to a bit of a sort of were a bit of unsure in terms of their shape and didn't look as coordinated. And it'll be a tough one now for James Horan, because that'd be the big question in Mayo. Because it wasn't particularly a good day out for Aidan O'Shea. Didn't score again. Beaten, and he definitely probably didn't need that on his CV or portfolio going into a championship season.
Yeah. Donnchadh, you mentioned there just about the whole Páirc Uí Rinn debate and the Cork footballers. Jack O'Connor said yesterday it's none of his business, he's not getting involved. But look, surely this will be sorted now in the next day or two, and surely the Cork footballers, have to have their game at Páirc Uí Rinn.
Yeah, you would think so, but then you would also have assumed that the Munster Council would have had a sense of what was coming when they made this decision. So they're going to have to climb down now if to resolve it. It seems like if Cork dig in their heels and don't play the game, like the precedent that's set with the Corrigan Park thing and with the New Bridge or Nowhere is applicable, but only to a certain level, because everyone has their own home and away arrangements, which is slightly different. Prior to the New Bridge or Nowhere, like Kildare had played games outside the New Bridge in championship, like qualifier games. So it's a tricky one. But look, I think it's a bad look to be making the case for making the financial case for a match when it comes to integrity of competition. Now, that comes with its own caveats, because Cork's stadium isn't available for financial reasons as well. But like I do think that like 11,000, like if we're going to lose out and selling 10,000 odd tickets, I think that you just got to take the pain, even in the light of COVID, even after the GA losing loads of money, even with the debt associated with Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Still think competition has to come first, and let Cork play their game in Páirc Uí Rinn. It is hard to have sympathy for. I was tweeting during the week. It's hard to have sympathy for official Cork. This is. It's an organisational thing. I know they're making the case that it happened before the split season and that in different circumstances. And if this calendar hadn't been changed, this wouldn't be an issue. But you have to assume that GA events would be prioritised time and time again, and they should be. This isn't the case, so it's hard to have sympathy for them. But it is, your sympathies would lie with the players who are already facing a mammoth task, and now it looks like they're talking about sending them to Killarney, which is a huge ask.
So lads, just before we go on to Division 2, with that Division 1 season now over, who's winning the All-Ireland?
Hard to see by Kerry, really. It's an easy one, but I haven't seen them in the flesh in Mullane. They were without doubt the standout team in terms of their intensity, the pace. Obviously their forward unit doesn't need any introduction, but what they're doing at the back, and still scoring heavy. There's nothing out there to touch them at the minute until we see otherwise.
Yeah, I go along with that, with the one caveat that around at roughly this stage in the competition last year, when they tore Tyrone apart, and we were there just to have it all. Now the defence.
The worst thing that ever happened last year was Kerry beating them that way down in Killarney.
Yeah, and like they're very like they seem to have all the boxes ticked. But again, like if you go back to that Tyrone game last year, the semi-final, there were a couple of chances early on, and I don't know what you thought, Dick, but they just took the odd hand pass too many, or overcomplicated things, or could have just tried to force a goal and maybe got bottled up at the last minute. And if you were being hypercritical, and this probably has been hypercritical, those two goal chances Paddy Clifford had in the first half, like they could have been worked. they got the 2 goal chances and they got precisely nothing out of them. They didn't walk it back for a point. You know, didn't someone take control of the snare and just tip this over the bar, keep it ticking over. So if you're being really harsh, that you probably zero in on that and maybe draw parallels to the parts of the Tyrone game last year when they had the chance. But no, everything looks good for them at the minute. They'd be. It's hard to look past them. I know the bookies cut them by price a little bit last night straight away. So, yeah, it's Kerry for me at the moment.
Okay, so Roscommon won the Division 2 title yesterday. They beat Galway 120 to 22 points. This was a really entertaining game. That goal from Dermot Murton at the time was an absolute bullet. Roscommon have really built up some really good attacking options as well, Dick. The likes of Donny Smith, Kieran Murta, Keane McKeown. What impressed you in particular about this win for the Rossies yesterday?
To be fair to Roscommon, they've been knocking about, not dissimilar to Monaghan for the last 10 years. And a lot of these players have been in and out. And the one thing I would have against Roscommon is a lot of years, I don't know what the internal politics is in Roscommon, is why they haven't kicked on, is what I'm saying, is why they haven't maybe established themselves as a solid Division 1 team and not doing the yo-yoing and pushed on at Croke Park level. Like, one year the Murphys mightn't be there, another year the Dailies mightn't be there, and the Smiths. There's so much talent there, but you know, it looks on the face of it that everybody's there that should be there now, and they've got a really good, strong panel and loads of scoring potential. Like the Murphys, we've seen sort of glimpses of what they can do over the years. The Smiths and like the Dailies are take tough at the back, so like they are building a panel and a team as good as anything below, say, Kerry in the top 2 or 3. You know, they should now see themselves in that sort of chase and pack that, you know, if the cards fell well for them and they get a run, there's a pathway to unthinkables in terms of All-Ireland semis and finals for them. And they really should be looking for that because they have it there. Galway, with their tradition, will certainly be thinking that, and they beat them yesterday. They've beaten Mayo in Connacht, you know, when Mayo were better than, you know, or as good as what they were are now before. So they have it there. They just need to make sure that they keep all the good harmony in the camp. And I know you never hear anything coming out, but when you see players not involved for different reasons, you know, it makes you think, oh, what's going on? So they're there. Now they have a panel to really compete because, you know, counties like Roscommon and the Monaghans, they don't always have that to fall back on. So it's there, and they should be really, really looking forward to what's ahead of them now for the rest of the summer, because they've every right now to think that they can be up, you know, next in line to the best that's there.
And Donnchadh, Galway had been travelling so well in this kind of league campaign so far, and then they had those 2 defeats to Roscommon. They were 5 points down in yesterday's game, and they scored 6 points in a row between the 57th and 64th minute and got themselves back in the game. But they had the momentum then, and then Roscommon came back at them. Yeah,
and I suppose Shane Walsh coming on, you know, we're talking about beautiful points earlier in Clifford. Like his talent is the level of his talent is quite extraordinary in terms of his two-footedness and his kicking of the ball and his athleticism and his ability to get away from players. And that made it. I was just thinking actually, like if you're Galway over the last few years, and you know, how often have they been able to put a fully fit Damien Coma and a fully fit Shane Walsh on the pitch at the same time?
Paul Conroy as well.
Paul Conroy, who was excellent.
Oh, excellent yesterday.
Yeah. Excellent, like right and left foot, like, you know, lovely, talented footballers. But I agree with what Dick said. The next question now for Roscommon is, like, they went to the Super 8s a couple of times and they had appalling experiences, like did not play to anywhere near their level of standard. And you were wondering, like, what's missing here? Like, you know, they consistently.
But it was the squad depth there as well, Donnchadh, at that time, wasn't it? That, if, you know.
Yeah, there probably was. But in fairness, they've been up and down. They've yo-yoed to Division 2 and 1 consistently. And, like, you know, at some stage, you know, that becomes a problem. And maybe now they look as if they're better equipped. Maybe they're physical. I remember being in a skiing once to watch Roscommon and the loss to Monaghan. And Kevin McStay was over at the time, and he was making the point, listen, we have physical work to do here. We're years behind. So maybe there's a little bit of that needed to catch up in terms of, but they have some lovely talented footballers and lovely footballers coming off the bench as well, which is half the battle at the minute. That, you know, and that's what got them over the line yesterday.
So who's winning that championship game, lads, in a few weeks' time between Galway and Mayo from what we've seen so far?
Well, it depends who Mayo can bring back. Like, how many of those guys that went there yesterday, what level of fitness, it's hard to know, you know, the injury, the extent of the injuries that they've had, you know, muscle injuries, you know, at this time of the year, it's the last thing you want, you know, because you don't get the time to to let them properly heal, and you're always anxious to get back out, and you can overtrain. So it really depends, if Mayo, well, what it is, if it's Mayo's team yesterday, or not much added to it, and is facing Galway, it's a 50-50 game. You just give that bit of experience that Mayo have ahead of Galway. Galway still have it all to prove. Even Shane Walsh, you mentioned, yes, but has been very flaky on the big stage. So he has all the potential, but needs to deliver at a consistent level, at a sort of an All-Ireland standard for really to be up at the tier that we know he can be. So I think Galway have potential, but they need to sort of apply it at a sort of a top level. So I would say just tentatively give the nod to Mayo, Sinead, but it really is dependent on how many of those guys they can get back.
Donnchadh.
Yeah, it's like a fully loaded Mayo, and like what they look like. Maybe going back a few games, like I covered them against Armagh when they played that game in Roscommon, and they pulled, I think, Paddy Durkin off the bench, Aidan O'Shea off the bench, Pádraig O'Hora off the bench. That stage you're thinking she's doing really good shape. So fully loaded, I'd probably edge or go for Mayo, because in fairness to Mayo, you know what you'll get with them, and they're usually, with the obvious exception of yesterday, but when they've everyone, they're quite consistent in their performance. They'll go to a certain level. Don't think you can say that about Galway at the minute, because they went to Derry and won convincingly. Then there was then they were kind of played in fits and starts yesterday. If you go back to that game in Croke Park, the Connacht final in Croke Park, they had their moments in that as well, but still didn't put it all together. So yeah, I think I'll go for Mayo. And then I think, if assuming Roscommon are the other side, I don't think they'd love a shot at either of them for a Connacht title and to move into the last 8. Because the other thing that struck me yesterday as well, like Anthony Cunningham's CV is extraordinary. Now, like across hurling and football, club, 2 different provinces with Gary Castle and St. Bridget's, picked up another Division 2 title. He's won like what has he not won at this stage? All Ireland essentially, but he just keeps getting things together, keeps finding ways to win. It really is sort of gotten flown under the radar a little bit, but incredible CV.
Yeah, no, well done to him, lads. A quick word before we go on the Division 3 and Division 4 finals. Cavan obviously won Division 4 2-10. They beat Tipperary 2-10 to 15 points. And Louth won the Division 3 title in Croke Park. They beat Limerick 114 to 12 points. Dick, Mickey Harte working his magic again. Yeah,
I was delighted for Louth. I would spend a lot of time working in Louth and Drogheda over the years. And Louth is, and Donnchadh know this, and Louth is a hugely passionate GA county with huge tradition there, going back to their All-Ireland winning team from the 50s. And they do not like being where they have been over the last number of years. So that's what Mickey Harte has obviously tapped into, that tradition and that support, because it is a strong footballing county, and he's getting that out of them. And it just shows you, Mickey Harte, and I would have never liked the tone of it in his last years in Tyrone, and even in the last couple of weeks, there's a few people out sort of speaking about Mickey Harte, this and that. It just shows you the quality of the man, and it just shows you that it can bring a county like Louth and bring them successive promotions to the level that they're at. What he brings to an outfit, and he's just brought that real feel-good factor, and guys really believing in themselves. And it's a really good story coming out of the league, which we had plenty last year, so it's about Louth this year. As for Cavan Tip, they'll be just glad to put some silverware, put 2022 in 2021, how they found themselves in Division 4 in the rear view mirror and try and look forward to better things in the championship. So so again, Louth was the story of the weekend outside of David Clifford, I think, for me. Yeah, no, fair play to them. And Dick, thank you for joining us, and bring on the championship. Absolutely. Now to discuss the hurling league final, we're joined by John Mullane. John, Waterford 420, Cork 123. There's no place to hide now. You're firmly championship contenders.
Yeah, look, I suppose everything we kind of predicted came to fruition. They banged in 22 goals in the league, banged in another 4 goals the weekend. We predicted that this Cork Daily was going to be a big star in the making, and what a performance he gave the weekend. We predicted that before the league kick started. Big fine for Liam Cattle, and I suppose, look, it's the manner in which they've captured this league. I mean, to think that they won this league without Erla Daly, who was brilliant in full back the previous week, without Ozzy, who was probably our best player, brilliant the previous week. And without probably without Jamie Barron, probably one of the best midfielders in the country, it's, you know, you kind of have to pinch yourself and say, you know, we're in kind of, you know, look, you don't want to get carried away, but
I think you are, John. I think you are.
Embrace it, John.
Yeah, it's exciting times, and you're saying to yourself, can this get any better? And you know, I honestly do. I think I honestly believe it can. And when you think of what's coming off the bench, like someone like Shane Bennett, Kieran Bennett, Paddy Malley, DJ Foran, Cavan, Billy Power, not even to mention then Ian Kenny, who started last year, Peter Hogan, who started last year. And yeah, look, it's we're right up there. We are right up there, and I firmly believe if look, I'm 41 years of age, Sinead.
Is that all?
I'm not too bad for 41, but I firmly believe that if we don't do one under Liam Cahill in the next year or two, there's a generation are not after seeing Waterford capture Liam McCarthy. And I firmly believe that my generation probably won't see it. I just feel that now is the time I just think everything is in place, management-wise, player-wise, squad-wise. And there's just, and what I loved about the weekend, and look, going back to our team and possibly a couple of years ago when they won the league, you know, we probably would have went off and celebrated league final success. And, you know, given that the championship is only around the corner, but you know, I was on the field Saturday night, and you know what really took me was, you know, it was just like no one getting carried away. Went up, collected the cup, you know, took the congratulations, took the pats on the back, and it was a case of we move on, championship in 2 weeks' time, and we go again, and we go after the Munster Championship, and that's a sign of. You know, a really, really good team and what possibly could become a great team. And I just think everything is in place. I think they know what they want to achieve. And I think everything's in place for them to go and possibly achieve the ultimate this year, you know.
Donnchadh, as a neutral, are you as positive as John is about Waterford's chances in the championship?
Well, yeah, I'm starting to believe more than I did. I think that the elephant in the room here is Limerick. You know, yeah. What have we seen? How good are they? You know, they picked up a couple of red cards. Is that was that just something that happened, or is that something that hints that something else is going on and maybe not as focused as we were a year before? Now, like Waterford had real claims, but you'd have to wonder if we get back to Limerick at full mast, you know, how good can they be? Because we were talking about the terms we were talking about them in the last couple of years were like, you know, comparable to that was the next thing. We're going to the Kilkenny thing. We know Kieran Kerry was talking about going to be the Dublin and Ireland and all that. So they were the terms we were talking about them only a few months ago. So that is just the one proviso for me is how good are Limerick this year? How tuned in and how focused are they? Can they get back to where they were? And if they do, have Waterford covered enough ground in the last 12 months, 18 months to catch up with them? And I think that could be the real question of the championship. Looking at that, whether you can get Limerick at their best and Waterford carrying this form at the minute, I think that could be huge. But yeah, absolutely, Waterford. And the one thing I'd like to know actually from John, like, is expectation a thing now, John, for the first time? That you're like, even the way you're talking is so positive. Like people in Waterford going like, you know, this is our time now. Like, and if so, how will that impact the players?
Yeah, I think what's in their favour is that an awful lot of these players have played in so many finals. You know, they have the experience of playing in. Some of them have played in 2 All-Ireland finals. Some of them have played in minor All-Irelands. Some of them have played in under 21 All-Irelands. They've had success. So I think that expectation, you know, they've always had that. You know, they had it in 2017. They had it in the COVID final. They had a touch of it last year, and I think as Liam Cahill has touched on, the more you keep putting yourself in a position, getting the finals, you know, getting the finals becomes a habit. Now look, I think winning the weekend was a big one for him, because, you know, if they were to go and lose another final, you know, losing finals becomes a habit, winning finals becomes a habit. And I think, you know, that monkey's off the back now, that after winning a final, a national final. And I think, you know, I don't think these players will be overcome by expectations. I think there's an awful lot of good experienced lads in there that have been there. They haven't done it yet in regards getting over the line in winning an All-Ireland, but, you know, getting the finals, that does stand to you, Donnchadh. And the thing about it is, you know, if you keep putting yourself in a position, as Liam Cahill has touched on, keep putting yourself in a position and getting the finals, you know, there's going to come a day where you're going to get over the line and you are going to win that final. And hopefully touch wood, that may be the case this year. But, you know, everything, like, I mean, you talk about Liam Cahill, I mean, it's just such a remarkable job he's after doing in such a short space. I mean, you know, he's after rebuilding a team. And then when Paul Fanning took over from Derek, I think what can't get lost in all this is that, you know, he gave a couple of these lads their debuts. You know, you think of Fronty and Calum Lyons. Now, albeit, and they got to a league final that year. Now, albeit the results didn't go their way in the round robin that year. But, you know, I think Liam Cahill has just brought it on to a totally new level himself and Mikey Bevins. And, you know, as I touched on last week, from a Waterford supporter's point of view, it's really, really exciting times, and it's fantastic to be going in, you know, on the cusp of a championship just around the corner, 2 weeks' time, to be really looking forward to, you know, watching this team, because they really, really are good on the eye. You know, you're up there sitting in the stand and you just don't know what they're going to do. You just don't know what they're going to do. And the luxury he has, I mean, even in the forward division, I mean, Déise was possibly quiet the weekend, but, you know, still came up with the goal. But if you quieten Déise Hutchinson, you still have Stephen Bennett, you still have Austin Gleeson, you still have Patrick Curran, you know, Jack Pendergast. You know, it's all the great teams, you know, over the years, you know, have six really good forwards. And I think Waterford are really developing that. And you even think of someone like Shane Bennett, who's coming on at the moment. Shane Bennett, this guy will still play a part in the summer. But like, you even take it, well, Limerick are probably short a corner forward at the moment. I think Shane Bennett would walk into that corner forward position in Limerick at the present moment of time. It's just unfortunate the way the Waterford forwards are playing at the moment. And what Liam Cahill has now, he's a great deck of cards to deal with going into the Munster Championship. And, you know, you talk about Jamie Barron. You know, Jamie Barron, I don't think he'll have to rush Jamie Barron back now, you know, given how good Sarah Lyons and Cork Daly are playing in midfield. Previous years, he'd be probably rushing Jamie Barron back at a high risk. So now I think what Liam Cahill can do now, he can go back to Jamie Barron and say, well, he's not going to play the Tipperary game, and they're not going to risk him against Limerick the 7 days later. So they can just kind of take their time with Jamie Barron and probably look to maybe the middle stage of the Munster Championship, the latter stage of the Munster Championship, and get him fully back right instead of rushing him back at a high risk of him picking up another injury and lose him for the latter end of the championship, touch wood, that we get out of Munster. So, yeah, look, I don't think they'll be overcome by expectation. And for me, I think, you know, great credit to Liam Cahill, and, you know, wow, what a deck of cards you have to play with, you know, Absolutely. Going forward for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and as you say, to do it all without Austin Gleeson on Saturday evening was incredible. Stephen Bennett with 211, so impressive as well. But Donnchadh, Cork, serious work. They've got to do some serious work before the start of the championship. Waterford just absolutely split open their defence at times on Saturday evening.
That was the big thing. Just the concession of goals, and the Waterford could nearly conjure a goal if they sensed any danger at all. Even that Déise Hutchinson one, just the game was maybe coming back into the melting pot, and then straight down the middle, Déise goal. Like, so, it was like. But overall, you'd have to say it was fairly positive for Cork. They still have things to figure out, and like Anthony Daly was talking around, maybe just a few positional changes that could help. There's still just not quite all the pieces of the jigsaw don't seem to be fitting for them at the minute, and they have loads of talent. Like no doubt in the talent they have. It's just a matter of getting it all together and finding the right way to deploy all the pieces on the chessboard for them. And I think they'll have a big say in this as well. But yeah, no, look, yesterday was 100% Waterford's day, and I was just going to say there, like if you were being really cynical about when Liam Cahill was linked with Tipperary, and you looked at Tipperary and say, well, look, there's a bit of transition there. That 2010, the Paddy Mars, the Brendan Mars, that era was coming to an end, and whoever was coming in now to this job would have to sort of rebuild and bring in the under 20s and under 21s that Liam Cahill won with. You'd be saying, well, maybe the Tipperary job isn't that the one to get now. Maybe it's the one for 2 or 3 years down the line. But Liam Cahill obviously saw something in this Waterford team, and he's completely justified, you'd have to say. Like he said, thought there was a little bit more or a lot more to come out of him. And everything he's done so far and they've done as a group has justified that decision not to win, because it must be very hard to turn down your home county like in any situation. But
yeah, I felt like that was a turning point, John, actually, as well. The fact that Liam Cahill didn't go back to Tipperary, he stuck with Waterford, and as Donnchadh said, like that has been repaid to him, that decision.
Yeah, it was a massive statement of intent to make that decision, and there was a massive appreciation from the players and supporters to go and make that difficult decision. Like let's be honest about it now, Sinead. That's not an easy thing to do, like to turn down your own county when they come calling. But look, as you stated before, there was previous managers have from within Tipperary turned it down, and I think when you break it all down, I think it was the right thing to do. I mean, why would he walk away from a Waterford project that he's after investing 2 years into himself and Mikey Bevins, and they were knocking on the door, and we all know that year 3 of any project is possibly the year that the team possibly hits their peak under any management team. So for me, I think it was a no-brainer, and massive kudos to him for making that decision. And as Donnchadh alluded to there, he was justified by it the weekend and got his just rewards. And please God, there'll be more to come for himself and Mikey Bevins.
Okay, well, as Liam Cahill also said afterwards, the real test will be on Easter Sunday when they play Tip at Walsh Park. Between that Ballygunner All-Ireland win, this National League title, so Waterford really do look as primed as you can almost remember going into a championship.
Yeah, absolutely, and look, I suppose that they're on the crest of a wave, and I suppose the manner in which Ballygunner won that All Ireland Championship has to be applauded, and I suppose it's having a serious knock-on effect, and there seems to be just a really, really good feel factor around Waterford, and hopefully, as you just stated there, that they can bring it into 2 weeks' time and into the championship. But I think they've got to park it now. The league is done and dusted. It's great that they got the national success, but I think Liam Cahill, I think he will be well aware of what's coming in 2 weeks' time. His own county, and I don't think any of these Waterford players will become complacent, and I don't think they'll be allowed to become complacent by Liam Cahill. It's a serious test for him. And I think they're raging hot favourites. Tickets are going to be like gold dust trying to get into Welsh Park. 14,500 is probably the cut-off point for Welsh Park. And good luck to some people trying to get those tickets. But look, it's a great time. It's great times, but look, as we stated, I think that first game against Tipperary, we've seen it before. I think it's a must-win game for Waterford if they're to kick on. And if they can get that win under their belts, I think they're up and running. And I think for Liam Cahill, I think the goal now will be to finish in that top 3. And if they finish in the top 2, they're in a Munster final. But I think what is key for Liam Cahill now is to finish in the top 3, get yourself into that All-Ireland series, and try and get back to Croke Park and take it on from there.
So, Duncan, do you think
it can all turn on the first weekend? Like that's, we've seen it since this round robin's come in, and you can either generate great momentum where you can put yourself in a hole that you can't pull yourself out of. And that's like, you know, as John said there, like that has to be part now, because Tipperary are coming and, you know, can never be taken for granted or anything. So they have to hit, like where they finished off against Cork, they have to hit the ground running again, because wouldn't be long. Like in that Munster Challenge, there's going to be two very good teams out in a few weeks' time. They're going to be gone. Like, and you know, you could, if you try hard enough, you can make a case for any of those five getting into the top three places. So, you know, it won't take much to turn this thing. So they just have to keep going at the level they're going at.
And I think what is key, and I think the lads touched on it last night, League Sunday, is winning your home games. Mm-hmm. You know, Waterford have two winnable games on paper. I say on paper they have two winnable games against Tipperary and Cork, but they've two tough away fixtures. They don't come any tougher than going to the Gaelic grounds. You know, it's been a tough venue for Waterford over the years. And the last game is up in Ennis. You know, I wouldn't like to be going up to Ennis to try and pick up something, to try and get yourself into that last three. So I think it's critical that Waterford win their two home games against Cork and Tipperary.
So Donnchadh, just finally, just going back to Cork, do you think they will be able to shore up that defence and that they will be better for the championship?
Yeah, I think they will. I think they'll be in the three. Maybe not. Maybe it's tricky, but I do think they'll be in the three. And probably Limerick and Waterford maybe at this stage. I'm not sure what order, but I think they might be the three to come out of it. And then, you know, Cork being Cork, on a day they could blow you away if things fell right for them. So they do still carry that threat. They have problems, but they do carry that threat. They always do. I think even when John was playing that team had the potential to sort of run through you and run you ragged. And I think that's sort of they carry that with them all the time. Okay,
great stuff. Donnchadh and John, thanks for that.
A lot of shade.
Well, that's all we have time for on this week's The Throw-In in association with Allianz. And my thanks to Donnchadh, Boyle, Dick Clerkin and John Mullane for joining me. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the show. We're on Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Spotify, and we'll be back for more during the championship.
It's only 30 years of Allianz supporting the leagues, and we're not done yet. Only the leagues, only the Allianz leagues.